On behalf of Page Strand, let me again thank you for being here. We are so pleased to once again be the presenting sponsor for this event. Last year, when I stood on the stage and introduced Mayor Henderson, I don't believe any of us had any idea what this next year would hold. It has certainly been a year full of challenging complications for our city, for our state, for our nation. How lucky Columbus has been to have Mayor Henderson's steadfast leadership. He would be the last person to brag upon himself, and I'm going to be scandalous for a minute and take this off so I can speak. Thank you. He would be the last person to brag on himself and his efforts over the last year, but I think all of us in this room can completely understand the difficulties and the measures which he has had to undertake in his office to protect our community, to keep us informed of daily COVID statistics, to coordinate a tremendous effort in getting a mass vaccination site in our city. And I think that we are very lucky to have had his steadfast leadership in that process. Simply put, our 70th mayor has had a lot to do. Over 25 years of public service has helped. Skip Henderson knows this community. He and his wife Karen have raised their children here, and they have served this town in many charitable efforts and businesses. Skip began his career with his father, who I understand is here today, in his local real estate business. He then went on to become a banker at CB&T, and he next moved on to Keller Williams Realty as team leader. During that same time, Skip was elected to City Council, where he served post-10 for over 2 decades. As someone with a collaborative approach to leadership, he has been part of many of Columbus's exciting developments. Despite a global pandemic, Skip Henderson remains committed to ensuring that Columbus's future is a bright one. So without further ado, please help me welcome Mayor Skip Henderson.
With a mic.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Mayor Henderson, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to sit down with you and talk a lot about the issues facing our community. We've got several questions or topics that we have had the opportunity to obtain from members of the business community and residents in our community. And we really look forward to this opportunity to engage in a dialogue with you about our city and about its future. With that said, though, I'm going to give you the opportunity to make any opening statement that you'd like to.
Thank you, Gerald, and I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this event together. And this is a little unusual. The way we've done the others, I think, is I stand up there and they're either trying to tell me that I'm really awful as a speech maker, or that in an unusual year, it deserves an unusual method of revisiting it. I am going to ask you to indulge me because there are some people here, and I'm going to cheat because I want to make sure I don't forget some of these folks that are here today that I just want to recognize. We've already recognized the elected officials, but I want to reintroduce the council. I don't think you understand the courage, the dedication, and the energy it took for these folks this year in particular. As they call them part-time legislators, I can tell you I know them all, they're not part-time. So I'm going to ask council to stand one more time, please, just so that we can thank you for what you do. Yeah, I think you see, I have seen other government access channels where people will show their council meetings, and every time I see one of those things, I'm just so grateful. I say a little prayer that we have the quality of people that we have working in Columbus. Yeah, it's indicative, I think, that you very rarely see. I don't think in the 2 years that I've been mayor, I have not had to break a tie. Council is typically cohesive, they're together, they're focused on moving this community forward. I just want to thank them. Also want to ask an individual to stand up so we can recognize him. I could give and I promise I'm not going to recognize everybody, it's just going to seem that way. But I want our city manager to stand up. Mr. Hugh. Congratulations, best city manager in the country, certainly in the southeast region, and we appreciate his leadership. And I know our deputy city managers, some of our executive leadership is here as well. Also sitting with the city manager is our chiefs and our sheriff. So I'm going to ask Sheriff Countryman, Chief Blackman, and Chief Scarpa if they would please stand. These folks are all relatively new to the job. These gentlemen do an incredible job, and I know during some of the question and answers, we'll be talking a little bit more about them. And I want to thank General Donahue for being here. I cannot possibly express to you how fortunate we are in Columbus to have the kind of the kind of relationship with Fort Benning, with our region, with our friends Eddie Lowe and the folks over in Phoenix City. His leadership in trying to shepherd that size of a military base, a training institution where you've got a constant influx of new folks during a pandemic, that's leadership. General, thank you so much. And a couple other folks I want to mention. I'm going to ask a few more to stand up. Our healthcare professionals, if you would stand. And I'm including the Department of Public Health, Melody from St. Francis, Scott and Laura, and Terry from Piedmont. And if you would just stand up, our medical professionals have navigated the most difficult period that I remember in my life. And these folks are absolutely heroes. Please give them a hand. And then we've got a couple of special guests that I'm going to mention them now because we will refer to them, I'm certain, as we go through some of these, because these are some of the things we've got going in Columbus right now. But the mayor actually has the authority to establish a couple of commissions to assist in trying to move the community forward. Now, what we have set as an objective is some of these commissions, we want them to evolve into where they are standalone organizations that continue to provide for the citizens of this community. So I just want to mention Dr. Stephen Leichter, Phil Schuler from the Mayor's Commission on Health. We also have, I didn't see, is Norman Hartman here? Whether he's here or not, he deserves to be recognized. He's been the chair of the Mayor's Commission on Unity, Diversity, and Prosperity, and has done just an incredible job. And then, of course, I want to mention, too, the folks who have been so integrally involved in the Cure Violence effort for what they have done. Cedric, who you heard recite the prayer this morning, his father, Cedric Hill, as well as Dr. Asante Hiltz, and Reggie Lewis, who have done an awesome job. So you'll hear more, I'm sure, about that. But I did want to take just a brief minute to thank those folks for being here. I left one individual out because he's probably worked him harder than I don't know if he could stand up. Chance Corbin. Chance is he works under Chief Scarpa. He's our Assistant Director of EMA, and he has been helping to coordinate, really been sort of the fulcrum around which all of this mass vaccination has been taking place. So Chance, thank you for your efforts too. I know there's somebody I missed, and I heard it said one time, blame it on the head, not the heart. But, thank you.
All right, so once again, thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity. I appreciate the fact that you were with us, and we're going to dive into some very tough topics. We're going to start with public safety. Public safety is something that's on the minds of so many Columbus right now. And I want to ask, what are your plans for addressing violent crime?
Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that violent crime, overall crime has gone down a little bit. But when you take a look at assaults, murders, some of the more violent acts, they have increased exponentially. And it's a nationwide issue, something that's being dealt with across the I don't know that I can put my finger on one reason. There are a lot of things I think that go into the spike that we've seen. But I think that as we look at that, we've got sort of a subculture that has evolved to where they don't respect the lives of others. They are too quick to pull a trigger as opposed to try to work things out. And I can tell you that of the 20, our police chief is here, and I hope I got these numbers right, but of the 20 murder files that were opened, 40% of them, almost half, were domestic and family violence. So while I don't think COVID is the reason that we're having this spike, I do think it contributes to the emotional stress, the mental illness, dependency issues that all lead to some of these things. And sadly, if we had a police officer or a sheriff's deputy on every single corner, those things would still happen because they typically begin and end behind closed doors. The other violent acts typically are involving people who know each other. So it's not a random shooting. It's somebody it's either in the middle of a burglary or it's somebody who is purchasing weapons or drugs, and then one of them decides they want the money and the drugs. So to quote some great lawmen, both our chief and our sheriff will tell you that you need a multifaceted approach. And our chief will tell you it requires all hands on deck, and they're both absolutely right. We're blessed that we have a proactive police department under Chief Blackman's leadership, and we're blessed that we've got a very active initiative going on under the sheriff's leadership. The sheriff understands that he needs to do everything he can to try to get some of the guns and the drugs off the streets, and he's doing it. Our police chief has an intelligence unit that's been created, and the crime suppression unit gets that intelligence and goes out and tries to prevent some of these things from happening. Now, we also, having said that, we understand that we have to enforce the law. That there's got to be other initiatives going to. So we spend about $800,000 a year on some 25 to 37 programs that all deal with mentoring, tutoring, workforce development, education, GED, all different types of programs that we try to encourage some of these younger people to take advantage of. And some do, and it is having an impact. But we have recently, Reggie Lewis and Cedric and Asante and Cedric's son Cedric Jr. have been, these are just a group of citizens. These are not folks on anybody's payroll. These are folks that just love their community and got tired of seeing the violent crime. So they've been in contact with Cure Violence. And Cure Violence is an organization that has been in 10 countries. It's in over 100 cities, and it's shown statistical, verified success at every level. So, to council's credit, we requested the council fund $25,000 to pay for an assessment process that will bring these individuals in to look at our communities and tell us how, where, and when they can provide some assistance. And then council, to commit or to show their commitment, has agreed to set aside $500,000 to operate that should that assessment come back with some definitive ideas on how to make a difference. So it's a long answer, and truthfully, no one of those is going to fix crime and particularly violent crime. But by having the enforcement working hand in hand with organizations that are providing opportunities and also bringing in a connective type of organization and structure, we feel like we're going to be able to change the basic culture of the community and make for a safer environment.
Fantastic. It's definitely a tough issue. What would you say are things that the community can do to support public efforts in addressing crime?
Chief Blackman would say all hands on deck. Number one, I think we've got to try to reestablish trust between our law enforcement officers and our neighborhoods. That has been lost. I mean, even right now, the Chauvin trial is on every channel. And unfortunately, what happens in other parts of the country does have an impact here in Columbus. And it weakens the confidence and the trust of neighborhoods, particularly our black and brown neighborhoods. People who are seeing mistreatment at the hands of police in other areas. And I think that what we've got to continue to do is try to create an environment where our law enforcement are humanized to the people that they are serving. I will say this, I'll say that under the chief's leadership and under the sheriff's leadership, we are not going to compromise our standards. We are going to be selective on who joins those law enforcement departments, and we're going to make sure that they are held to a standard of training in both those organizations that makes sure that events like we see play out around the country don't happen here.
Thank you. Another question or another topic that's sensitive and surely on the minds of so many people is the recent voting law in Georgia. What are your thoughts on that, and do you see any impact on the police community?
My first thought is, when do the easy questions start?
Never.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. No, you know, truthfully, I've spoken with our elections director, Nancy Bourne, because Nancy, for those of you that haven't had an opportunity to meet her, she is without a doubt she's one of the go-to people throughout the United States with regards to elections and how to efficiently and effectively run them. And here's the deal. In my mind, one of the things that differentiates America from other countries is the freedom and manner with which we elect our representatives, right? And then hold them accountable for representing our wishes once they get in office. So I think any method, any way that you can expand or create more opportunities for people to vote is a good thing. And you must also provide the assurance to, if I'm in there casting my ballot, I need to be able to know with some degree of certainty that the person casting their ballot next to me is doing so legally and lawfully. So it's, you know, my probably the biggest disappointment in this is that, or one of the biggest disappointments is the fact that I know that the All-Star game has been relocated. And it seems to me that there ought to be a way to start walking through this and talking through some of these issues, as opposed to doing something that may hurt small businesses who are coming out of a pandemic, minority-owned businesses that are struggling to hang on after we made it through that COVID-19 challenge. So, yeah, you know, I think it's one of those deals where I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think you can expand opportunity and still create a higher level of validity.
Great. Are you ready for an easy question?
I've been ready for that one.
It's not an easy question.
I didn't think about it.
The next topic is COVID. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing currently as it relates to cases? And then we'd love to hear your thoughts on vaccine or the vaccine and how distribution of the vaccine through the mass distribution site and other locations around Columbus are working for us.
Yeah, so, you know, to give an update on COVID around all these healthcare professionals is a little daunting, but I'll tell you that, I will say this, I'm so proud of this community because I think that the measures taken by not just the hospitals and not just leadership in the community, but by the entire community has helped us weather this storm better than most. We are seeing our numbers, and we have not seen the spike that some folks have talked about, a little bit of a surge. I'm anxious to see what happens in the next 10 days after Easter when families got together. But we have seen our rolling 7-day average drop to about 21. We have lost about 374 lives that have been, COVID has been named as a reason for their passing. The hospitalization rate is the one that we have watched very carefully from the beginning because we recognize that there were outside influences that could impact positive case reports. But if we could keep an eye on how many people are going into the hospital who are diagnosed with COVID, it would give us a really good idea of which direction we're heading in this thing. And right now we're staying right around anywhere from 35 to 42 people and that's in the area. That's not not in just one hospital. And again, another shout out to those hospitals because they've gotten so efficient and effective at treating people who have COVID symptoms that it has held down the mortality rate. It's also enabled those individuals to move on back to their home to get better. The vaccine, I think, is a huge part of us getting back to normal. And by back to normal, certainly that's in terms of interpersonal relationships and the medical piece, but it also means back to normal financially. So that businesses and restaurants are able to continue to conduct business and get people back to work. We've been very fortunate. We first noticed there was a little bit of a disparity, I think, in the amount of vaccines we were getting in Columbus and what some other cities our size were getting. So we checked into that, and within a week we received about 3,500, I think, doses. And then we began talks with GMA, and they ended up putting one of the 9 mass vaccination sites in Columbus. And I tell you, the collaboration between the hospitals, between DPH, our EMA, and underneath Chief Scarpa and Chance, we created a template for them to use. So they just stepped in and took it over, and it ended up being one of the biggest mass vaccination sites. So we need people to go ahead. And by the way, this is a plug. If you don't have an appointment, go anyway. They have 2 lanes down there, one for people who have registered, one who have not, for people who have not registered. Go to the Civic Center. I would urge you, if you're going to drive up, though, go before 3 o'clock. But we want you to get the vaccine. We've given somewhere, I'm guessing it's around 50 to 55,000 doses of the vaccine in Columbus. But we got 195 to 200,000 people. So the key to us getting back to normal is taking advantage of all of these vaccination sites. DPH is continuing to run them. Piedmont, I know, is still continuing to put some vaccines in arms. Walmart, Walgreens, I mean, you can find a shop. I would urge you to go get it. And if you're a business owner, I would consider telling your folks, your employees, give them a few extra hours off on a Friday if they'll go get the vaccine. It's good for business.
So thank you for that. You mentioned small business and the financial impacts, but one of the questions that was brought up was just a little bit of a glimpse into the financial impact that COVID has had on the stability of the city.
Yeah, I don't think we really know what the ultimate financial impact on the city is going to be for maybe another year, because you've got a lot of small businesses that are hanging in there, it's hanging on. From a city perspective, I should have had Angelica Alexander stand up. She's our finance director. She, under the leadership of the executive staff of the city, have done such a great job of preparing for this. When we went through our budget last year, we were going into the budget season thinking, we've done a good job been a good steward of the funds, and we ought to be able to make some capital purchases, do some things we really wanted to do. And then COVID hit, and so we had to pull all that off the table. So the employees of the Columbus Consolidated Government are incredible. They have done an amazing job continuing to serve the citizens, despite doing it with the same level of funding that they had the year before. But we are really, we took it on the chin. Peter Bowden is here, and he can attest that the hospitality industry really took it on the chin. They lost 90% of their revenue. And other revenue streams surprisingly stayed reasonably steady. So I don't know that we prospered, but we certainly didn't hit the wall like we were concerned that we could. We actually had March of 2020, the second half of March, we had a decline in our sales tax revenue. And then April, which was the month of shelter in place in Georgia, was a pretty steep decline. But every other month from April from beginning of May of 20 to date has exceeded the same month the previous year in sales tax. So the city has just remained vital. We had so much momentum going into this pandemic. I I'm convinced, spoiler alert, state of the city is pretty good. We are going to come out with that momentum intact.
I agree with you. I think there is a lot of pent-up energy as it relates to commerce, and I look forward to that happening as this winds down. As you and the team at the city develop a strategy for the use of the American Rescue Plan and Act funding, what will be major priorities and considerations as you move?
Well, listen, we're grateful that our senators and legislators work to make sure there's something in there for local governments. Because in all of the other stimulus plans, I think government sort of got left out, even though we were severely impacted, and that impacts the residents and the citizens because you're still trying to provide the same level of service. Our city manager didn't waste any time. As soon as they started talking about that stimulus program, and by the way, we still don't have definitive guidelines from the treasurer, so we're waiting to act for when those guidelines are distributed. But we're going to be ready to act. The city manager has asked every single department head to look at every function that they provide within the government and determine which one of those, at least to this point, fit in the parameters that have been hinted at that will be allowable. We want to, you can use the money, at least they're telling us right now, for revenue replacement. And that could be very significant about how far they'll let us expand that into quasi-governmental entities. I mean, all of our arts venues have really taken a hit. I mean, we've got the State Theater in the Springer, we've got the River Center, you've got museums, you've got all these organizations that really suffer. And you also have some small businesses that have suffered. So I think as they begin to define what we can use that for, we want to make sure that the people in this community are made whole, either in services coming from the city or in trying to help them recover from whatever they have.
Thank you for that, and we look forward to the opportunity to partner with you. I know there's so many others that are willing to do that as well. Thank you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about the city COVID restrictions and what that looks like in the near term?
Yeah, the governor recently seriously relaxed his executive order restrictions, and really the one remaining for us, well, there's the one that people talk about the most is this thing. And frankly, the governor's executive order that allowed us to even consider requiring a mask is predicated on it being at a certain threshold, the new cases being at 100 new cases per 100,000 people over a 14-day period. We're on the downward slide on that. We're down to about 153. So, we reserve the right to do whatever we need to do to try to make sure that residents are still healthy. But, I would think that once we get below that threshold, instead of just suspending enforcement as we did once we dropped below before, we'll probably just go ahead and rescind that. We've still got a number of our facilities that we're working our way through. And here's the thing, going into this, nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody really knew exactly what to do. There wasn't a playbook. And so we were kind of feeling our way. Well, it's interesting, coming out of this is the exact same way, with more urgency, because we can see the end. We want to get people back to normalcy. But at the same time, you don't want to pull off the track when the finish line is only 50 yards ahead and wish you'd stayed the course. So we're very, very carefully evaluating our venues, Civic Center, Trade Center, which, by the way, they're funded by hotel motel tax, and there may be $1 million deficit in the operations of some of those. So yeah, we expect the mask to go away shortly, and we'll play it by ear with regards to our other venues.
Excellent. So now I am going to actually get into a more straightforward question that's less controversial. And it's prior to the pandemic, you had 4 pillars that you were working on. You've updated us on crime, but can you provide an update on the other 3? Health, neighborhood improvement and housing, and workforce?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I mean, it's really, I'm really proud of the folks in my office, and I didn't introduce them. I was saving my family and them for as we wrap things up. Becca and Richard and Alexis, I mean, it's such a strong team, and we almost didn't realize how much headway we were making because we tend to focus so much on all things COVID, right? But we have had some successes in those areas, and a lot of them are due to some of the folks that I mentioned earlier, who are parts of these task forces and commissions. First of all, from neighborhood and housing, our first year in office, council showed a lot of courage in allowing us to put $1 million in the budget. Up to that year, we had done about $75,000 a year. I think that's right. Maybe the city manager see if his mask is going horizontally or vertically. About $75,000 towards demolition to try to rid the community of blighted properties that tend to be crime active. So we made a bold statement. We put $1 million in there. Council approved it. And we ended up taking down some of these burned out trailer parks. The second year, we were going to try to do $500,000, but then with COVID, we dropped it to $250,000. So we still made a lot of headway. We've also had a collaboration with the Keep Clothes Beautiful. Charnay does a tremendous job. Literally was a huge success. As a matter of fact, we're going to continue to do that going forward, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. We have met with landlords and the sheriff, the new sheriff, talking about procedures for evictions. Evictions are not a fun thing to go through, but we also need to make sure that they don't turn into a neighborhood issue with trash scattered all along the areas. So we've also seen some housing initiatives underway through NeighborWorks. NeighborWorks has got an initiative going right now on 4th Avenue that is transforming that area. So there may end up being as many as 30 to 35 new homes, single-family homes there. We've made a difference, or we haven't made, but First Baptist has been involved in Victim Mission. They've created a community center right on North Lincoln Road, and there are plans for a housing development just about a block south of there off of Victory Drive. The Ralston Towers was a problem that we inherited. Thanks to Sanford Bishop and Drew Ferguson, they got HUD's attention. We were able to solve that problem with that current owner. And we're looking forward to being able to make an announcement very shortly about the future for Ralston. So we've been able to do a lot of things from a housing perspective. The health perspective, Dr. Leichner and Phil Schuler are here. They've got a couple of different initiatives underway that we're really excited about. One is an educational program to try to encourage people to eat healthier and to take better care of themselves, because we understand that a healthier community absolutely impacts poverty, education, crime, everything. And we're also looking at trying to eradicate food deserts. You see a lot of the urban gardens popping up. Mercy Med and Olivia Amos and some of their folks have begun a very focused effort on trying to provide that to people who typically don't have easy access to nutritional food. And another piece that I'm excited about is we're looking at going mobile. We're going out to some of these neighborhoods. A lot of folks in the most impoverished neighborhoods won't even come to a church or a rec center for help. So we're looking at going out to those neighborhoods and taking a mobile screening unit so that we can screen them for diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and show them how to prepare some of the more nutritious food, and even bring some recreational equipment. Hopefully we can get our law enforcement officers out there engaging with the kids and trying to create a little bit more synergy there. In the workforce development, we were really targeting, we're not trying to be the chamber, you guys do that and do it well, but we were focusing on the 18 to 24-year-olds, those that are kind of disengaged. They're getting out of high school, they don't have a college they're going to, they don't have a job. So we've been looking at trying to create opportunities for those individuals to be able to get work. And there have been a number of different initiatives. We've partnered with True Spring Ministry, and we partnered financially. We also, the city manager made available one of our rec centers to allow them to do a program that is teaching people the soft skills and the necessary hard skills to be able to go to work. Despite the pandemic, we started the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. I was determined not to let COVID claim another victim on that, but we had 35 kids, graduating seniors, that did not have an idea what they were going to do, and we put them to work within the government. We paid them $10 an hour so they could save up a little money, and try to get them to understand the value of earning a wage and how they're in control if they're out there earning their own money. We've also had, I saw Martha and Todd here. Columbus Technical College is doing incredible things. We are looking to expand the Summer Youth Work Program. We've been talking to Muskogee County School District. I saw David Lewis here too, to try to see if we can't increase that too. So we've been fighting through a pandemic, but we've been busy, and we've had a lot of really good things going on. A teaser, we're hoping to be able to announce shortly a new initiative that we're going to bring to town with the help of folks at the chamber that is going to create careers in the construction industry. So we're not ready to announce that just yet, but we will give you more details when we get there.
And that'll be a good one, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So thank you for that update. I think the next logical question is, what do you see as the major accomplishments of the city and your administration in the last year?
You know, a lot of the things that we just talked about, I consider the major accomplishments because of the environment that we're in. And I think from the city's perspective, managing COVID and managing it so that we minimize as much as we could the medical impact, but also the financial impact. And that wasn't done in the mayor's office. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, this was a year that really tested leadership. And I don't mean elected leadership. I mean the leaders of their families. I mean parents who were trying to make sure that their children's education was continuing if they opted to go virtual. I mean, imagine the pressure of trying to make sure that they're getting the support they need at home in order to keep up with what's going on. Leaders in the military who were forced to deal with an ever-changing and evolving group of students, keep them safe, number one, but also prepare them to defend their country. Leaders in business, leaders who were trying to determine how to keep people employed and still keep their business running and operating. So I think that's one of the major accomplishments from this community. And I got to lift up, I saw Betsy Covington, I saw Ben, they put together a weekly call for the community and established a funding mechanism to try to make sure that the most underserved were not suffering at a larger level. So it's just the way this whole community reacted. But then we also had some really cool stuff at the chamber. I told Gerald, I said, you keep having one of these every 30 days, we're in good shape. Because I know we went about 2 months and we announced 200 jobs at Kaiser Warren as they moved their North American headquarters to Columbus. Path Tech, homegrown company, expanded and added another 350 jobs. So we had a lot of really cool things happening. From a development standpoint, and this is more your bailiwick, but I know it certainly gets us a little excited riding through Uptown. We've got 2 new hotels that will be open by the 8th. One, the Indigo's already up and running. The AC, which we have toured, and it is a magnificent place. That'll be open, I think, around the 8th. The Hampton Inn is going to be coming online this year. There's been a complete upgrade of all the rooms at the Marriott, getting prepared for visitors when we come through the other side of COVID. We've got a boutique hotel going up right next to the Mercer Med campus. That is going to be, in addition to just being a beautiful location, a beautiful site, it's also going to be a connector. It's going to be a bridge that goes from Uptown, moving up into the 2nd Avenue corridor, moving into City Village. So we've got the cotton companies is starting to really make some hay. We've got, I think, 3 TAD projects that are under consideration right now. One's going to be really cool. there at the AC, there'll be a cut through to be able to go from Broadway to Front Avenue, and it's going to be instead of an alley, it's going to be like an outdoor dining or sitting area with lights, and it's really going to be pretty cool. We also have the TAD up in Midland. We've seen the completion of some of the infrastructure projects in South Columbus. We've got housing going up. We're going to need another day to do this, because I get excited about all the accomplishments this community has achieved under really tough circumstances, and it is about y'all. It is about people in the community that are doing these things. So I applaud y'all.
So, thank you for that. Again, I know that some of those topics were or would be considered tough and controversial, but we really appreciate your leadership and how you took those on. Are you ready for a little bit of fun?
This has been fun.
This segment is the Getting to Know Your Mayor segment, or otherwise I would call it the lightning round. And this is a tough one, but I know you'll handle it well. Your preference, McDonald's or Burger King?
Oh, man. Oh, can I plead the fifth? Because I will say that I like Burger King's cheeseburger, but I like McDonald's fries. How's that?
I knew he would handle it well. All right, COVID-19. What would you like to say as a result of what we've learned during COVID?
The empathy and the caring for one another.
I love it.
Watching people fill trunks with food baskets and stuff. It's been awe-inspiring. This is a great community.
And I would answer that question the same way. I love that. COVID-19. Who or what would you like to go away? It's masks.
Masks.
All right. What would be your retirement job? We want you to be mayor forever, but if you left office, what would be your retirement job?
Well, I really, Amy played softball for me when she was younger, and I liked her answer, but I don't want to use it. She said Karen Henderson's cabana boy. I pointed out that that's already on my resume. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't mind being a professional amateur golfer.
Okay. All right. I've seen you play golf.
Oh yeah, well it's laughable, but it's fun.
All right. Sports. Lacrosse or basketball?
Basketball.
All right. Do you know hip hop?
Do I know hip hop?
Yes.
I don't even know hopscotch.
All right. Okay. I was gonna say, what's your favorite hip hop artist? But do you know a hip hop artist at all?
Can I phone a friend? Can I my daughter?
Later. We'll go to country. Favorite country artist?
Favorite country artist? Oh man, a guy named Robert Earl Keen.
I've never heard that one. I would have said Johnny Cash, but.
I like Johnny Cash, both from Prison Blues, also.
Yeah. All right. So last one. Favorite sports figure of all?
Ooh, I'm a baseball guy, so it would be a tie, really. I have to throw Hank Aaron in there because he just was an incredible guy, and I'm a big Braves fan. But I was an Orioles fan as a kid, and I'd say Brooks Robinson.
All right, very good. I'm going to do just a couple of things here really quickly, a little housekeeping before I tell you thank you.
Well, before you do that,
Yes.
so that I can go home and still be the cabana boy, I didn't introduce my dad or my wife, and frankly, I love this community, and I can't imagine another job that I would want. I love representing and working for the people of this community, but I do it in a very deep level for them. My dad's a retired Army pilot, so he's a true hero in every sense of the word. And my wife puts up with me, so she's probably a little bigger hero than my dad. But just want them both to know how much I appreciate what they do, so that I can continue to do what I try to do. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing that. I want to thank our sponsors one more time, and thank all of you for being here. But thank our sponsors for helping this event happen, especially in this challenging environment. Our presenting sponsor, Page Graham, Sprouse, Tucker, and Ford. Our gold sponsors, AT&T and Georgia Power. Our silver sponsors, Kinetic Credit Union and TSYS, a global payments company. Our corporate sponsors, the Columbus Airport and George C. Woodruff Company. Our governmental affairs sponsor, AT&T, and then cornerstone investors, Aflac, Anthem, Georgia Power, I'll mess that one up, iHeartMedia, the Peasold Companies, Piedmont Columbus Regional, PMB Broadcasting, Pratt & Whitney, Synovus, TSYS, WC Bradley, and WRBO. Mayor, this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you enough for your candor. I can't thank you enough for your partnership. We really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to working with you and the rest of the city for years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gerald. And I want to thank Gerald Mitchell. Y'all give him a hand.